Here we go. Chapter 7, Lesson 8 is on page 340. We're going to be talking about parallel and perpendicular lines and how we can come up with equations that are parallel to each other or perpendicular to other ones. A couple of things we have to remember, we talked about this morning, that if lines are parallel, their slopes, m1 and the slope of the second one, have to be exactly the same. If lines are perpendicular, we learned this morning that the product of the first slope times the product of the second slope has to be equal to -1. They have to be the negative inverses, the negative reciprocals of each other. So if lines are parallel, the slopes are the same. If lines are perpendicular, when you multiply the two slopes together, the product will be -1. Number 11 says, let's see if we can determine if 8x minus 4y equals 16 and 5y minus 10x is equal to 3 if these two lines are indeed parallel. Remember too, y is equal to mx plus b. So we're going to manipulate these equations so that they are in the slope-intercept form. So this first one is going to be 8x minus 16 is equal to 4y. I added 4y to both sides. I subtracted 16 from both sides. Maybe I should slow up just a little bit on that. Let me go back and we'll erase this. And we will go ahead and say 8x minus 16 minus 4y plus 4y is equal to 16 plus 4y. And minus 16. Okay, so I did it all in one fell swoop. And so this turns out to be 4y is equal to 8x minus 16. Well, if I divide everything by 4, should make that look like a 4. This looks like y turns out to be equal to 2x minus 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So we know that the slope of this one is going to be 2. Got some information. Let's keep that in mind. Let's do this one. This looks like 5y is equal to 3 plus 10x. I added 10x to both sides. So if I divide this one by 5 on both sides, remember, what do I do on one side? I better do on the other. Y turns out to be equal to 2x plus 3 over 5. And this slope turns out to be 2 using this slope-intercept form. So m is equal to 2, m is equal to 2, so yes, these are parallel. Okay? Let's jump over to problem number 29. It says this point is going to go through comma 0, comma 2, and it's going to be perpendicular to 3y minus x is equal to 0. Well, that means we got to do something. We got to go y. Oops. Let me try that again. Y turns out to be equal to mx plus b again. Well, then let's see if we can do something with this one. 3y minus x plus x is equal to 0 plus x, or 3y is equal to x. Or if we divide both sides by 3, y turns out to be 1/3 x. And this tells us that the slope has to be equal to 1/3. That's the slope of this line, 1/3. It's got to be 1/3. The slope turns out to be that. But it's got to be perpendicular to that. So that means that the slope of this line over here, so the slope of the first one times the slope of the second one, has to be equal to -1. So we've got 1/3 times m2 better be equal to -1. So this second slope turns out to be -3 over 1. Remember, when we multiply them together, m1 times m2 has to be equal to -1 if the lines are going to be perpendicular. So we went ahead and used this one, found out its slope, found out from that one that the slope was 1/3. That gave us that information. Well, it turns out that the slope of this line over here that's going to be perpendicular to that has to be -3 over 1. So we have that piece of information. We have y is equal to 2. We have x is equal to 0 from this part up here because it goes through 0, 2. The slope is minus 3. We have finally y is equal to mx plus b. So we have m, we have y, we have x. Let's see if we can find b. So this looks like 2 is equal to minus 3 times 0 plus b. Well, that makes that convenient. B turns out to be equal to 2. One more piece of information. Now we have minus 3 as a slope. B is 2, so we can finally plug in again here. Y is equal to mx plus b, and y turns out to be equal to minus 3x plus 2. That's the solution to our equation. Let me review this problem real quick. It goes through 0, 2. X is 0, y is 2. It's perpendicular to 3y minus x is 0. Y turns out to be 1/3 of an x, or the slope turns out to be 1/3. Remember, 1/3 x plus b. In this instance, there's no b, but that's okay. So our slope is 1/3. The slope of this equation here has to be minus 3 over 1. So we have minus 3 over 1. We have y is 2. We have x is 0. We solved for b. B turned out to be 2. We used b. We used m. We plugged it in. Our equation is y equals minus 3x plus 2. Not so bad. A little bit of time, but just go slow through it, and everything worked out. Thank you so much. We'll see you all tomorrow.